This self-luminosity, or self-knowing, is innate. It is of the very nature of consciousness, which is existence. For the perfect fullness of bliss, Ananda, you have only to know your existence, the consciousness, as it is. Such knowledge is necessarily non-objective in character. The knowledge of your existence, which is the knowledge of consciousness, is non-dependent. To know your being, you do not require a body with its sensations. To know your being, which is consciousness, you do not require a mind or thought forms. Indeed, the non-objective inquiry, who am I, as revealed by the Maharshi, is quite direct, requiring no intermediary. It is the directness of self-existent being, self-knowing consciousness. It is thought-transcendent knowledge. In the course of inquiring to know who you are, it is imperative that you do not assume the very misidentifications that you're attempting to transcend. So then, you do not come to know the self through means of the mind. Indeed, it is the misidentification with the mind that is the root of all maya, illusion, and samsara, the repetitive cycle of birth and death. To misidentify with the mind as with the body is to court calamity. Are you a body? Are you a mind? How is it that you know of your existence? Certainly not by means of a body, and also not by means of a mind. Sri Bhagavan says that the mind is but a bundle of thoughts. This being so, then, the knowledge which illumines thought, but which is not illumined by them, must be beyond the mind, inherently so. If one attempts to know the self through the mind, how will he arrive? There is only one knower. In the known, what is objective, multiplicity is possible as a product of delusion or imagination. But for that which is non-objective and therefore utterly formless, how could duality or multiplicity be possible? Therefore, the knower is absolutely one. And that one knower is pure consciousness, which is unalloyed with anything else. If you imagine that the inquiry at least starts with the mind, really it starts with yourself and not with the mind. The mind, therefore, is not a means of self-knowledge. The idea that there's a second knower, a mind or ego entity, is delusive. The consciousness is only one. Thoughts which appear as inert but which are actually unreal appear as a multiplicity. How unreal is the unreal? How real is the real? The real is completely so. The unreal is completely so. If you imagine that the mind stands between you and the Supreme Self, upon what is such a supposition based? Are there two selves? One on one side of the mind and another on the other side of the mind? Is not your existence always more interior than thought? How could thought ever be you, the unknown knower of all that is known? If it is not you, how could it reveal you? What is being said of thought pertains to any state of mind, endowed with thought or thoughtless. Your nature is consciousness and not a state of mind. Therefore, you should know self-realization is of the nature of consciousness, which is pure being, and not a state of mind. Because it is pure being, and thus ever existent, the nature of realization is eternal. Being non-objective, it is infinite and homogeneous. Understand that the mind is not a second knowing entity, and it cannot obstruct you. Understand that the characteristic of the mind is unreal, and it does not bind. What is it that can be called the mind? Though it can be said to be composed of thought, what knows those thoughts? Apart from the knowing of them, the thoughts do not exist. But the knowing belongs to pure consciousness, which is non-objective and forever unmodified. If you realize this, you see that there is no such thing as thought, and the mind has not come to be. If the mind has not come to be, then all of its creations, which appear only in itself, inclusive of the entire world, has not been created. One self exists. One self knows itself. Inquire with the knowledge which is pure consciousness itself as the means. The end appears as the means. For whom is the mind? Who am I?